We're live now, Chair. Thanks.
Right, thank you. My name is Councillor Dorothy Davison, and I'd like to welcome you all to this virtual meeting of the Children and Young People's Social Care Services and Scrutiny panel. The meeting is being live streamed via the Council YouTube channel, and whilst members of the public can view the meeting, they will not be able to actively participate or comment on proceedings. As the meeting is being live streamed, I'd remind all participants that their conduct should reflect this. Normal rules of procedure apply, with any questions or comments directed through the chair, please. We'll carry on with the agenda and start with agenda number 1, which is apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, we've had apologies from Councillor Walker.
Thank you. Any other apologies from anywhere? No, thank you. Declarations of interest. I have to declare 2 declarations of interest this afternoon. Non-procured declarations of interest. One is for 13, which is one of the presentations that will be here this afternoon. I have a daughter who works for 13, and I also have a daughter who's present at the meeting today, who's Karen Dean and works for Together Middlesbrough and Cleveland. So thank you all for that. Is there any other apologies? Thank you. Could we go to the minutes of the last meeting, agenda item number 3? Is there any comments to make on these minutes, and can we accept these minutes as they are? Can I have these accepted, please? Thank you. Councillor Wilson, can I have them seconded? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Teresa Higgins. Thank you. Right, we're going to agenda item number 4, which is locality working, which is our regards the locality working is what we are looking at the moment. I would like the background to the panel is currently looking at the topic of locality working from children's service perspective. We have been provided with information regarding the locality worker model and the 2 pilot projects in Newport and North Ormsby. We have also been provided with specific information regarding children's services, involvement and staffing within the project. The panel has heard information regarding various partners working within the locality pilots and agree we would like to invite some of these partners to discuss their involvement in locality working, so we have a better understanding how partners are working together to improve the outcomes for our children and families, and to possibly identify areas that need strengthening going forward. Today we have, well, is Lindsay Cole not here yet? No. So we have today with us, we were expecting Lindsay Cole, who I'm hoping will pop up any minute. We have Heather Insel from Youth Focus Northeast. We have Karen Dean from Together Middlesbrough and Cleveland. And we have Kathy Williams from North Ormsby Primary Academy. These people have been asked today to give a short presentation lasting 5 or 10 minutes, and we will take any questions after the presentations have been made. Can we start now? I also noticed we've got Joanne Tickle on in the room. Is that correct? No, she's not answering me, Joanne.
Yes, Chair. I noticed that Joanne's just emailed me as just before the meeting started. I didn't have a chance to read her email. So she's joined today, but what she's saying is that she's more involved in the Newport project, but she might be able to contribute something towards the discussion today.
Well, welcome, Joanne. Thank you very much. What we would like to get from the meeting today is a better understanding of how the partner services and organisations are working together in the localities, particularly how they interact with children's services element of the project to improve outcomes for children, young people and their families. So can we start with the presentations today? I believe that Heather, you have to leave the meeting early, so would anybody mind if Heather went first? Is that okay with everybody? So Heather, would you like to go ahead and give us your presentation?
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't have a visual presentation today. I'm just going to be talking through a few things with you. But I also have some statistics that I did send across that I'm able to show if necessary and if anybody wants to know more around that. So as discussed in the beginning, I work for an organisation called Youth Focus North East, and we're a young people's charity that covers the North East area, but we particularly focus on the East Middlesbrough area, so your wards such as Pallister Park, Park End, but also within our remit, Northalmsby falls under that. So we are currently funded through the Big Local Initiative, which is lottery funded programme, which lasts for 10 years within the Northalmsby community. So it's into its last, I believe, 4 or 5 years now. So we run that youth provision twice a week on a Monday and a Thursday for young people from the ages of 10 to 18. And that happens at the hub in Northalmsby on Derwent Street. So at the moment, we've been part of the locality team meetings, which obviously happen weekly, and they've been really helpful for us as an organisation to be able to get young people's voices heard and helping young people to progress with things that they're wanting to do within their community. So as an example of that, we are basically funded to create social action projects. And for those who don't know, social action is basically around things that are going to benefit the community and make it a nicer place. So we've been working really hard with the locality team to basically get them ideas off the ground. So we recently had groups of young people doing community litter picks. So they've set all of these ideas up themselves and get others from the community involved. So they've done community litter picks. We recently did like an arts project with a group of young people who have made boards that are basically going to go on the front of void properties within the North Ormsby area. So we've been working with 13 and the council to be able to pull that together. And we've also recently, alongside Lindsay Coe and her team, put on a community awards for the local community to celebrate what's happened over COVID and just celebrating those people within the community who probably get looked past quite a lot. And we also supported one that happened in the Newport area, and no Councillor Halawi was there for that one. So we've been doing that. It's been really beneficial for me personally being a part of that, because it's really helped. Think a lot of the time people work in silo and work to their own rhythm, and that is absolutely fine. Everyone's got certain things that they need to achieve, but everyone coming together and being able to speak about that together has just been so much more beneficial than trying to piece all these things together. And it's also meant that some people have had the same aims and objectives, so we can pull together and do one bigger project in our instance, instead of just doing it on a smaller scale. The other side for us really is, because we're not directly funded through Middlesbrough Council for any of our youth service, so all of our money is brought in internally from our organisation. Where we struggle is sometimes information is brought to us quite last minute. So if there is issues with families and young people within the community, we're not always in the loop about this. So for me is an issue, as we're probably engaging with some of these young people on a twice weekly basis and their families quite often. So sometimes the information that then comes to us a couple of weeks down the line could have been really helpful for us a couple of weeks earlier on. Obviously, I understand that there is services and youth organisations that are funded by the council who are absolutely fantastic, but it's just keeping in mind those organisations that are directly funded by you but have a really good engagement with young people in the area. some of our staff as well, just to put in there as well, some of our staff are from the local community, so we do try and bring people from that area and build them up, take them through that training to be able to then make a lasting impact within their communities. We've attended a few of the social care meetings that have been put on by the social services team, and they were really beneficial, and they give us a chance to, if we had any issues with young people or just had any concerns, that we were able to speak with them and gain the information of who their social worker was, so then we could then do that piece, speak with them a bit more to see what we could offer as support for that young person, and just have an all-round picture of what bit on offer for that young person, so that we're not duplicating, but also if we've got something that we can add to that picture, then we were able to add that in. That is pretty much it, I think, from my side, unless anyone has any more anything they want to ask. I think that in a nutshell is us, really, and our thoughts and our team's thoughts as well, from the locality.
Thank you for that, Heather. Very informative. Just one quick thing. Do you do several activities for the young people?
Yes, so basically, just to give you a really brief overview, within our sessions, we provide, when we start off in an area, we go to areas where we try to deliver in areas where there's no provision at all, or hasn't been for a very long time. So when we start our work, we do a lot of consultation with local young people and what they want and what their aspirations are in life and what they would like to achieve moving forward. We're very much about trying to instill within them, yes, you may be from Northamptonshire or wherever within the Middlesbrough wards, but it doesn't matter, you can still achieve some really amazing things. So we cook every week with them, so they learn to cook different meals, so they've done curries, parmos, all that type of stuff, but healthy from scratch, learning that so they can take that home to the families. We always have some arts-based stuff for those who are a bit more hands-on. We do sports, we have local organisations coming in to do some intervention-based work with them, whether it's around sexual health or substance misuse, anything that's an issue in that area, we do try and get the correct services in to support us with them pieces of work. And then they're going to be taking part in a project to do some positive graffiti art in Northamptonshire Park, near the bottom of Northamptonshire, but also around that there's going to be education around the difference between what is art and what is vandalism, and that obviously it's not appropriate to vandalise, but positive art is it's a nice thing for people to look at. So we do try and have a breadth of activities for those young people to take part in, and obviously age appropriate where needed.
Thank you for that. Is there any other questions for Heather, please? Councillor Halawi?
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of all of us, I'd really like to thank Heather and everyone from Youth Focus who works in Middlesbrough for our communities. They do a phenomenal job and their work is very impactful, especially on the lives of young people and their families. We did have a great awards ceremony in Newport Hub, and thank you for all that you did for that. I met some really interesting young people who were very committed and very grateful. I think they recognise the input that your organisation makes in their lives. And I think a huge thank you from all of us is a very appropriate thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor
Really
Halawi. Councillor Marsden?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for a very positive attitude towards young people in Middlesbrough. Can I ask, do you have any problems communicating with other partners in the locality scheme? Thanks.
Not particularly, no. For us, I think Lindsay, she really does have a hold on things, and she really is a great person to bring everyone together. So she really does try to do the best for the Northamptonshire community. And I think because everyone's sort of got the same aims and objectives, everyone does want the best for that community. So personally, so far we haven't had any issues in getting in communication with anybody around what we're wanting to achieve. I'm sure that at some point there might be an issue. There always is issues in certain things, isn't there? But I definitely think the team that focuses around the Northamptonshire area for that locality would deal with it the best they could and make sure that all aims were achieved to the highest of standards, definitely.
Yeah, thanks so much, Heather. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? No? Right, thank you very much, Heather.
You're welcome.
You're very welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you would like to.
Yeah, no worries, I will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Has Lindsay come online yet, Jo?
Chair, no, she hasn't. I'm not quite sure what's happened. I've tried emailing her and I just got an out of office response. Caroline's been trying to follow up with some phone calls, but I don't think we can get in touch with her, unfortunately, at the moment. So I'm not sure whether something's
Okay,
happened.
we might have to delay her until the next meeting.
Yeah, possibly.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Chair.
Right. Can we ask Karen to come in now from Together Middlesbrough and Cleveland?
Hi everyone. Jo, have you got my presentation or am I able to share my screen at all? Or do you just want me to talk through it?
Yes, I have. I can put it up on the screen, Karen. Just bear with me 2 seconds.
Do you want me to tell you when to move the slides on?
Yeah, you can do. I'll just try and share.
Heather knows I love that little bit on a presentation. Fabulous. Am I okay to start?
Yes, please start.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know me, my name is Karen Dean and I am the Food and Security Project Officer for Together Middlesbrough and Cleveland. Together Middlesbrough and Cleveland coordinates a programme of fun activity and a provision of healthy meals across Middlesbrough and Redcar and Cleveland during school holiday periods. And this is known as our Feast of Fun provision. A lot of you may have heard of it, and I know there are a lot of organisations that are already involved with our Feast of Fun provision. And the aim of our Feast of Fun provision is to combat holiday hunger in vulnerable families who struggle to provide the cost of additional meals and entertainment for children out of term time. To be able to fund the Feast of Fun provision, Together Middlesbrough and Cleveland raises external funds to be able to support the local organisations that work with us. So last year we had approximately 40 church and local community organisations that worked with us and have done over the years to provide activities and meals to the children and young people during those holiday periods. We provide, and a big part of my role is to provide the coordination of that programme across Middlesbrough and Redcar and Cleveland. And in addition to doing that, we also secure additional resources for the groups that we work with. So, for example, we've worked with Heather for Youth Focus North East. She provides Feast of Fun within her organisation, and this can be a face-to-face activity that's delivered during the school holidays to children and young people, and it will enhance what Youth Focus North East is already offering and offering something different. But the big thing around it is there will be a healthy meal and some enriching activities for those children and young people that attend those services. Can you go on to the next one, Jo, please? Just to give you some stats behind our Feast of Fun. Feast of Fun's been running for probably 8 to 9 years, and I joined Together Middlesbrough and Cleveland in January last year. And in 2019, Feast of Fun, for those organisations that took part within it, it delivered over 13,000 meals across the year to the children and young people and the families that access the services. Now, you've got to remember 2019, this was before a pandemic. This is when face-to-face delivery was happening. So activities were happening where children could go along to during the holidays face-to-face. And that cost, Together Middlesbrough and Cleveland raised just over £34,000 to be able to support those groups. When 2020 came, obviously the pandemic hit, our Feast of Fun provision turned to Feast of Fun at home. So we supported those local organisations that we've always worked with in being able to continue the delivery of Feast of Fun. But like everything, it was in a remote way, very, very different from how it had always been. And you'll see there by the numbers, the number of meals we provided through Feast of Fun went up to 86,000 meals over that year. So that just showed you the scale and the need that people in these organisations, these families, these young people they were supporting went up by. And that cost in the region of £82,000 worth of funding. When I joined in 2021, again, we just entered a second lockdown, so everything was still for Feast of Fun running remotely. And these groups and organisations, when I came in, it was very humbling experience to see how these volunteers who run these Feast of Fun provisions in a lot of the places and paid workers were actually going above and beyond to be able to support these people and these families that they were in touch with. And last year, we delivered over 117,000 meals. We talk in meals because one of our biggest funders is Break Meals and More, and they like us to report back to them on how many meals we've provided. But alongside those meals, those organisations would be delivering activities. So activity packs would be getting sent home with a food parcel to the families by the organisations that were doing it. And so last year, we spent in the region of £117,000 worth of funding. Now, obviously, last year, a lot of things did go face-to-face. So when restrictions eased and we were allowed to go back to face-to-face delivery, a lot of our organisations did go back to having the children and young people in physically with them. But then a lot of the organisations that have worked with us, a lot of the church-based organisations rely heavily on volunteers, and a lot of those volunteers didn't actually return at that moment in time. So we've had a mixture for Feast of Fun this last year of face-to-face and remote delivery. If you could move on, Jo, please. So looking specifically at the locality support, like Heather, I myself, I attend the locality meetings, both for Newport and North Ormsby, and I do have to echo what Heather says about Lindsay Combe, what she does in her locality. We meet on a weekly basis and everything is discussed in what is going on in that locality at that time. And it is a great opportunity for us to talk about what, for example, Feast of Fun's coming up. We've got our next delivery period. Is any of the organisations wanting to be involved? If there's any funding streams that come up, because that is a big thing for us, funding. We're in this locality together. If we have had, for example, a family have contacted us who are in absolute desperate need of some support during the holidays, we are then within that circle of being able to, I can speak to Heather, I can speak to Rachel Stark at the Trinity Project. We can get in touch with organisations to try and help these families. So specifically looking at the locality, we've worked with people, I've said Youth Focus North East, we've worked with Links, the Trinity Young People and Children's Project, and we also, Feast of Fun is delivered through some of the local schools as well. So looking at statistics specifically for those locality areas, in 2021, we supported through Feast of Fun over 1,000 children and young people through the provision that was offered, whether that's face-to-face or remote. Just short of 400 adults were supported, and over 10,000 meals were provided to those in need within those areas, as well as enrichment activities that were provided. Now, when I talk about this, we've obviously had since last year the introduction of the Holiday Activity Fund. So what we deliver is very similar to the HAF provision that the council get the funding for. The difficulty is with the HAF provision only supports those children and families, well, those children who are in receipt of free school meals within school. And a lot of our Feast of Fun work, we can support any family. So those families that are on the borderline that cannot access free school meals, cannot access any of the support that's out there because through no fault of their own, they're just on that borderline of support. We can, as an organisation, through Feast of Fun, we can support all of those families. So what we have tried massively to do last year, and this needs to continue moving into this 2022 with the HAF provision, is try to coordinate things side by side so that some people aren't getting double of what's out there, and that everybody and every family and every child and young person can access support that is out there. So that has been a difficulty with the HAF provision, and something Heather said about finding things out. Things have been, sometimes it's not a criticism, it was very, very new, but it's quite last minute, and we're trying to ensure we're supporting absolutely everybody. So it is very similar what we do, but we deliver all year round in each delivery period for the school holidays, whereas a HAF provision is purely just, for example, we're going to be delivering Feast of Fun in February half term, but the HAF provision doesn't operate during February half term. So all those families that have had support last year will now come, the organisations will come to us, and the demand that's placed on us increases twofold because there's no other support out there. So we're trying to work very, very closely with the HAF team to make sure there's no duplication and everybody gets the support that they do ultimately need. If you could move on for me, Jo, please. So I won't read this case study out. I think you've all got a copy of this, but this is a case study genuinely from a family that I met in the summer in North Ormsby area who were accessing one of our Feast of Fun provision. and they will tell you what Feast of Fun meant to them as a family, to be able to go along, sit and have a cup of tea, adults with other adults, while the children were engaged in enriching activities. They were doing something really, really positive. It was just absolutely, it was absolutely heartbreaking, but absolutely, you know, you realise what is actually going on out there, and equally seeing what these organisations are doing to support these families. And it is huge, and it needs to continue, and the demands placed on our Feast of Fun is increasing, and we're constantly looking for funding to be able to support it, which is why us working with the HAF provision is ultimately really, really, really important. If you could just move on, Joe, there's just some pictures there to show you over the last year that the organisations we work with have sent in to us. And that's what you want to see, children enjoying themselves and accessing what they can. One of the pictures on there is Quorn Company. They come down, and I know a lot of the people sat around here have had them in, they come and make meals with the children and the families. So that's a big thing for us, everybody being involved in what's being delivered. And I think that's it, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Thank you for that, Karen. Does anybody have any questions?
Make that nice.
Councillor Higgins?
Thank you, Chair. It's not a question, it's just, again, a big thank you, because I think you're all doing an absolute fabulous job. And we thank you on behalf of the children of Middlesbrough and Redcar and Cleveland. I mean, your brain must be bleeding when you get home on a night. But they can't do without you. So thank you.
No, thank you.
And
Thank
for
you.
all the information. Thank you.
Councillor Urdu?
It's Udin.
Udin, sorry.
Sorry, Chair. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, no, it's all right. Thank you. Yeah. Right. Thanks, Karen. That was really good. As the Councillor Higgin mentioned, you know, this is fantastic what you do. Yeah. I do understand you probably identify the children through the school, and I just wonder, how do you identify the families? Like, you know,
we're very fortunate that the organisations we work with, they already know their families, and the school know their families, so they will apply for. I'm using Heather as an example because she's on the call, but Heather from Youth Focus North East would apply for a small grant from the fundraising that we've done from us. We would issue her that grant, but she's already identified those families that she's working with. If we work with the school, it's the school that's identified those families, or an organisation might work in partnership with that school, and we will fund them to be able to support those families. So it comes through the work of everybody else knowing exactly who it is. And like I said earlier, we sometimes will get an email will be sent through to us from a family who have heard about us, and they're massively needing support. And where this locality work comes in so beautifully is we can then get in touch with other people to say, can you help this family? Do you know of somebody who's delivering who can help this family? So we don't identify them personally, but that is through the organisations or the schools that individually identify those that need the support.
yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks very much for that.
No problem.
Councillor Nugent?
Yes, thank you, Karen. I think your job is wonderful. However, could I ask if I could, maybe I should ask this through the chair, if I could have some notes or perhaps information on your slides, Karen. I would like further information about this, please.
Yeah, not a problem. Did you want us to arrange to meet separately to speak about it further?
At the minute, no. I think if you forward me the information, that'll be enough for now.
No problem.
Okay, Karen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Morstan?
Thanks, Chair. Hello, Karen. Long time no
Tom.
see. Just a query about your funding. In times of everybody wants funding, are you having problems raising the funds, or?
Yes. Yeah, the funding's always been it's been difficult. We're very fortunate we have one of our largest funders is Break Meals and More. So we work very closely with them annually, and they give us funding. We know annually what they're going to give us in terms of funding to cover Redcar and Cleveland and Middlesbrough. We have been fortunate last year. We have had money. We've had some money through council. But as the year's gone on, and with the introduction of the HAF provision, it's been more and more difficult to get funds to support what we're actually doing. We have fortunately done it. We've had funding through Redcar and Cleveland. Sirius Foundation have funded us, the Albert Gabay Foundation. But like everybody, that funding is drying up very, very quickly. And if people do have funding, it's potentially for capital projects, or it's not going into the things that we need it for. So that's why I mentioned about PAF provision. It's so vital that we work together, so we're not duplicating the work and nobody is getting left out, because the PAF is very specific on who and what they can support. And as an organisation, we couldn't use that funding because families we were trying to support them was those not in receipt of free school meals. So it was a difficult one, and that's why I say moving forward, with funding being so scarce, we need to make sure our funding that we do have goes to those that need it, and it's the ones that can access the HAF do access the HAF provision. But it is becoming more and more difficult to get funding.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Halawi.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate all the work that's being done, Karen. As you know, I've worked with Feast of Fun and the HAF Fund for many years now, and it's wonderful. And I've visited the project, spoken to grandparents, parents, children, so I'm very familiar with the on-the-ground strategies and mechanisms and how successful it is. I just want to say as a comment how really sad I am that this whole provision is even necessary, that we have so many needy families in our community, that there's a continuously growing need, as we saw from your figures, about how many children and families need to be involved. It's tremendous how it's evolved since 2019. The number of families that's been taken on extra is extraordinary and is wonderful and amazing. But on the other hand, I'm more and more sad to see that we have such terrific needs in certain areas of our community, such as the one I work in, where there's numerous sorts of provision from the school and from other agencies. It is a very sad reflection that we have to have so many families dependent on bids, on funding of such provision, because basically the families are financially unable to give their children holidays with sufficient fund for food and holiday activities. My comment, I'm trying not to be party political, but I think there are choices being made at the top level about how to distribute funds in our community for the well-being of everyone, and particularly children. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there any more questions for Karen? Councillor Halawi, did you have another question, or is your hand still up?
No, I'm just about to take my hand down.
All right.
Sorry for the confusion, Chair. I shall now take my hand.
Thank you very much.
Lower my hand. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Thank you, Karen, for that.
Thank you.
Very, very interesting. Thank you. Is there any more questions? No? Thank you. Can we move on now? Is it Cassie?
It is, Cassie.
Hello, Cassie.
Hi.
Do you like to give us your presentation now, please?
Unfortunately, Chair, I don't have a presentation. I've come for information purposes. This is some of the first information I'm hearing about this locality working. I am the designated safeguarding lead for one of the 2 schools in North Ormsby. We have 278 children on roll currently. Around 20% of those are at level 4 for children's services. And obviously, we all know there's a lot more that we engage at level 2 and 3 as well. There's obviously some fantastic stuff going on, and I'm aware it's out there. If for nothing else, you know, I do encourage these agencies to get in touch with us, because we can advertise to our students. Heather has in the past, we've had links with Heather and Youth Focus North East. Our children speak extremely highly of the work that Heather does in the community with some of our older children and their older siblings. So we're aware that Heather's out there and what she's up to, and we've advertised that in the past. But unfortunately, that's really where our communication and involvement end. We haven't been getting any information about meetings, what's going on, what we could be referring our families to. We've just really been getting on with it ourselves, which is unfortunate to hear that there's so much out there.
Did you want to come in, Karen, just a minute?
Sorry, it was just a quick question, Cassie. So I know we've talked obviously about, like, I talked about Feast of Fun, and we do work with some of the schools within locality areas. But when I've mentioned PAF provision, do you not get access to all of that? provision and that support that was out there for the children over the summer and Christmas?
No. So we recently had an external half use our building at Christmas.
Okay.
But that was the first time that we'd had access to that.
And were your children able to go to that? Could you refer any of your children in?
Oh yes, yeah. So we had a small window where they got the priority booking for it. But like you said, you know, it was primarily for free school meal children. There was a very small percentage that could pay to come if there weren't free school meals. But I'm sure you're all aware that there is a large chunk of our community who aren't accessing public funds, therefore aren't able to claim free school meals, but are actually
On the borderline, aren't they? Yeah.
well, they're not even on the borderline. They're not
Desperate.
able to claim resource to public funds, so they're not claiming anything. Therefore, they're not entitled to free school meals. It's a bit of a double whammy for them. You can't claim any benefits, but yet you've got to pay for your child's dinners, and you're not entitled to access these sorts of provisions.
Can we move on now, please? Tom, can I bring Sue in first, please?
Yes, no problem.
Thank you, Chair. Cassie, I'm slightly concerned, well, more than slightly concerned that you don't know about the project. It's not been something that Children's Services of themselves have been promoting. It's very much in the Environment Directorate. That's not an excuse in any way, shape or form. And I know that you and your school have been working very much more closely with Children's Services, and your role as designated lead for safeguarding is very highly valued. So I will undertake to make sure that you get this information as soon as you possibly can, and I will get somebody to talk specifically to you and your colleagues in school as you think appropriate, and I will do that. I'm off for the rest of the week, lucky me. Sorry, I didn't say that, but I will be back in on Monday and I will make sure that it happens then.
Thanks, so I appreciate that.
Right.
Not at all.
Councillor Morstan?
Thanks, Chair. Hello, Cassie. I'm sorry to hear about your exclusion from the system. I did think that the locality work in Nunthorpe and North Ormsey was identical. So I'm very surprised to hear that you weren't in the scheme of things from the beginning. But I think I'm reassured by Sue's comments there. And enjoy your holiday, Sue. Thanks very much, Cassie.
Councillor Higgins?
Thanks, Chair. Well, I find right. Thanks, Chair. It's just to say that, like Sue said, I was going to say, is there anybody within an organisation to get a list of different organisations and who to contact? Because we don't want to keep reinventing the wheel. And if the people, you know, all the good work that's happening, then the more people that know, I know it's, and I agree with Councillor Halawi, but I will say it is political, because everything we do is political. So I have no qualms about saying it is political, but we need something to someone or somewhere to coordinate all the different organisations and what they do. So thank you, Chair.
Karen, I can't really bring you in. Okay.
Why?
Is there any other councillors have anything they want to say? No. Is there anybody else on screen that I'm expecting a presentation from, Joe? No.
No,
Sorry,
Chair.
I was very sorry to hear what Cassie had to say, and I'm glad Sue's going to take it on board. But maybe Lindsay could have given us more information on this. So I would ask, Joe, that we ask Lindsay to come to our next meeting, because it does seem, as far as I'm concerned, that North Ormsby seems to be totally different to Newport. Am I seeing things in a different light to everybody else, or does everybody agree with me? Sue, you can maybe correct me on that one.
Thank you, thank you, Chair. Behind the scenes, I've been looking to get in touch with Lindsay, and I don't know the reason, but she's unexpectedly unavailable. So I imagine that something's happened that has prevented her from
Yes,
from coming along today. So, but we will undertake to pass your message on, or I will make sure that I'll work with Joe to make sure that the message gets passed on. And if she's not available for the next meeting in April, try very hard to get somebody in who could provide the information that she normally would.
Right, thank you very much. I would like.
Chair, sorry,
Yes,
Chair.
Councillor Higgins.
The young lady who put her hand up and you said that she couldn't talk, was it just to answer my question?
What did you want to say, Karen?
I just wanted to say you've already probably covered it. Lindsay Core would have a list of everything that is available within the Thornsby locality. I'm pretty sure about that. But if she's coming to the next meeting, but I've messaged Cassie to say I'm sure that's who will have the information. But I'm happy to ask her and see if I can get that as quick. It's Sue's doing it, but I'm happy to email her and ask her for that.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Karen. Is there anybody else who would like to ask these lovely people that have come, or is there anybody else would like to say anything within this meeting? Right, I'd like to thank you all for coming that has given us a presentation this afternoon. You're very welcome to stay to the rest of the meeting if you would like to, but if you would, you've got other things that are more pressing, which I'm sure you have. Thank you all for your attendance. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to dip out.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
We'll let them leave. Right, we'll continue with our meeting. I think those presentations were absolutely amazing and gave loads of information. But also, I think we really need to talk to maybe our street wardens that work out of the locality and also possibly the police. So I will speak with Joe and we'll see if we can organise that for the next meeting. Does everybody agree on that one? Yes, thank you. So we'll go on to the next item, which is our COVID update, Sue, please. Sue Butcher.
Thank you, Chair. As an overall update, we are monitoring staff attendance. We do that across the whole of children's services. That's children's social care and education and partnerships. And also in terms of social care, we get monitored on attendance by the Department of Education. We've been miraculously in children's social care and in education, those staff that work with schools rather than in schools. We've come out of it really relatively unscathed in terms of staff absences. As of today, we've only got 14 staff in social care who are absent due to COVID or self-isolating. The highest rate of absence is in our children's homes, so 6 out of the 14. So you can see the whole of children's services. There are 8 that are there are 8 that's in the sort of whole service, but 6, as it were, that are in our children's homes. So that's been the main area of pressure there. I mean, education and partnerships, we've got 10 staff who are absent. So in total across the whole of children's services, we've only got 24 staff who are absent due to COVID. So that's only 8%. So I think that's, we've done very well to maintain it. That level has been more or less the same, probably gone up as far as about 10%. And we've not had to report specifically to the Department of Education unless our areas of our numbers of absences went up to 20%. So you can see that we've been out of the concerned zone as far as the Department of Education has been concerned. There's been some disruption in terms of school transport, although that is now settling. There have been some children who haven't got to school or haven't got to school in time. The cancellation of transport has been both due to shortage of staff in the ITU, in the Integrated Transport Unit, but also cancellations from the school in terms of some staff availability, but that is now very much settling. I've seen a downturn, which is actually an upturn, as it were, in terms of issues around children being taken to school. In schools, we've had absences monitored through public health. Schools have been working amazingly hard over the last few weeks, as they have done all the way through the pandemic. They have been, there's been some significant effects due to COVID, shortages of staff, and some pupil absences. The schools, however, have managed marvellously to ensure that as many children as possible can be in school. So, for example, getting some higher level teaching assistants to take classes. However, I'm again seeing that settle. And we're beginning to come out of the the particular concerns and pressures that have been on schools. They're still there, but they are becoming, what's the right words? They're becoming less so. And really, we're starting to focus much more on business as usual, which is those children, individual children who should be in school and aren't, rather than the general COVID effect of not being in school. So in summary, really, an improving picture, and let's very much hope that it continues to improve, particularly the pressures on staff in schools, and who I would once again want to praise inordinately for the work that they've been doing, particularly over the last few weeks in terms of managing staff and pupil absences. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sue. So I would just like to add, the children's homes, they must have lots of problems in handling this COVID situation, but they seem to be doing really well. And I think their staff all need to be thanked for that as well.
Thank you. I will certainly, Rachel and I, but particularly Rachel, as she manages the children's homes in her area of the service, make sure that those your thanks get passed on, and your concerns get passed on.
It must be so difficult for them. It must be so difficult.
They work enormously hard, and Rachel and I are very, very proud of them.
Rachel, did you want to come in?
I was just to say thank you, Chair, for that. They have the whole service all across social care and education colleagues have been working really, really hard in the pandemic. But, we've had some examples of residential care staff who have actually chosen to self-isolate and live in the home with the children, so that we had enough staffing on occasions to look after them. So they really have gone over and above, and throughout this period as well, we've, Ofsted have still been inspecting our children's homes, and we've had some very positive outcomes there in terms of the quality of care. So they really have gone over and above. The COVID rates, as Sue mentioned, have been higher there, and you can see why, because they're having closer contact with children. But we're managing it really well. The staff and the managers of the children's home are managing really well. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Rachel. Does anybody else want to ask Sue a question or any comments to make? Councillor Higgins?
Your thanks that you've just given comes from the whole of the group, I hope.
Of course, Councillor Higgins, of course.
Yeah, and
yes.
We can't thank these people enough. So thank you.
Councillor Halawi?
Thank you. Yes, that's right about thanking everyone. What I think is quite remarkable is the nature of the response of our schools and children's services and everyone associated with children's education and care. To think that before COVID, we had no idea how to handle this, how to deal with all the different situations which have been thrown at us, and to manage organisations with children's well-being at their heart, and to be inventive and creative and responsive and compassionate. I think that's a major achievement amongst our school managers, as well as the people who work in schools. I can't praise them enough for their ingenuity and their response to what's been an amazing 2 years. And it's not just one response, we'll think of this and that'll work. It's continuously having to change and to adapt and to rethink. I can't think how many risk assessments I've seen. I'm a chair of governors, and we seem to be writing risk assessments all the time at one point. I thought, they're so good at responding to the new challenges all the time that are being thrown at us every step of the way through this COVID pandemic. So I think not only to thank them for what they've done, but to thank them for their creativity and ingenuity and responsiveness, as well as all the compassion they've shown to our families in so many different ways. I think it's amazing on their part. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. We must all agree with that totally.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Alma.
Thank you, Councillor Nugent. Can
Thank you.
we move on now to agenda item number 5, which is the overview and scrutiny board update, which was held on the 18th of January. What was gone through then was the executive forward working plan, chief executive's update, scrutiny panel's chairs updates, final report of the adult social care and service scrutiny panel, recruitment and retention of staff within adult care social care, medium-term financial plan, budget and consultation, corporate performance report Q2, and the next meeting of the OSB is Tuesday, the 22nd of February. Yes, Councillor Higgins?
At the OSB, I don't think we had a executive report. There was none. I don't think so. We haven't had one since.
No, we didn't have an executive report. No.
No.
It was a chief executive's report, I said.
Oh, sorry, Chair. I thought you said
It's
the
okay.
executive.
No, we didn't have an executive's report because of the change of executive. Councillor Harawi?
Yes, I'd like to pick up on that. I think that was totally unacceptable, and I made the point at OSB that if there has been a change in the executive, and that executive role needs to come to the scrutiny of the overview and scrutiny board at any particular given time, I think it's incumbent upon the executive to provide us with a retrospective report of the work they've done since the last time that that person reported to the OSB, and that hopefully they can talk to us about the transitional arrangements in place for the transfer of the portfolio from one executive member to another, and that we can be given a sense of direction about the way they would like to take us forward to continue to develop the portfolio positively. So I really bemoan the fact that we didn't have it, and it was on education as well. So it was really close to all of our hearts in this group and in the education Children and People's Learning Scrutiny Panel. So I'm really disappointed that that executive report was not submitted or presented. And I would like to think that that sort of circumstance would never be repeated for any of the executive portfolios in reporting back to the Overview and Scrutiny Board. Thank you, Chair.
We'll make sure that your comments get to the chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Board. I think the vice chair's here, Tom, so I'm sure Tom's taken that on board.
Chair, could I just come in there? Sorry.
Yes, of course. Sorry, Carolyn.
It's no worries. It's just to advise that the chair of OSB has already asked that Councillor Stephen Hill be invited to the next meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Board on the 22nd of February to give a retrospective update on the education portfolio. So it's just to reassure members that that is going to happen, and he will be invited to that. So just obviously to make the Director of Children's Services aware, I'm not sure whether she's aware yet that that's what the chair would like. So it was just to inform her, and we'll contact Rob Brown as well to let him know, because I'm sure that the chair would like to extend that invitation to him and to Sue as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Carolyn. Right,
thank you, Chair. I just want to say it's good to know that words don't always fall on deaf ears. So thank you, Caroline, for that update. I'm delighted to know that we'll get a retrospective report and we'll be kept in the loop about what's happening and what has happened. Thanks very much, Chair. Thank you, Caroline.
Councillor Marsden?
Yes, thanks, Chair. The Alma's comments were taken on board and action was taken immediately on those comments. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Marsden. Our next meeting is on Monday, the 21st of February at 4 p.m. We've changed from Tuesday because of corporate parenting. Am I correct, Jo?
Chair, I can't remember the reason. We normally meet on a Monday, but this time we met on a
Yes.
Tuesday, and
So
I
we're
can't
going to
remember
meet
the
on that
reason for that
Monday.
now.
Thank you. I hope everybody can make that meeting, and I want to thank you all very much for attending today. It was very interesting, those presentations, and thank you so much, and I'll see you all on the 21st.